Have you ever noticed something strange? Two people can say almost the same thing, but one person gets everyone's attention and the other gets ignored. One person walks into a room, says a few words, and people listen. Not because they are the loudest, not because they are the prettiest, not because they have the most followers. People just listen. And then there's the painful opposite. You say something in a group, and no one reacts. A few minutes later, someone else says almost the same thing, and suddenly everyone agrees. Or you try to explain yourself, but people talk over you, cut you off, or don't take your words seriously. And afterward, you keep replaying it in your head, wondering, what do they have that I don't? That question hurts more than most people admit. Because it doesn't just feel like being ignored, it feels like being invisible. Like your words are lighter than everyone else's. Like no matter what you say, it doesn't land. And here's the part most people never understand. People do not instantly listen only because of what you say. They listen because of what your presence makes them feel before your sentence is even finished. That is the hidden game. And once you see it, so many confusing moments in your life start making sense. Why some people can speak softly and still command attention. Why some people keep talking and talking, but people mentally leave after 10 seconds. Why sometimes you sound nice, but not convincing. Why sometimes you know what to say in your head, but when it comes out, it loses all its power. This video is not about becoming fake. It's not about acting like an alpha, pretending to be cold, or using manipulative tricks to force people to listen. It's about understanding the real signals that make people trust, respect, and emotionally lean in. Because the truth is, people are not only listening to your words, they are listening to your certainty, your timing, your emotional steadiness, your self-respect, your ability to make them feel safe, curious, or awake. And the scary part? You can be a kind person, a smart person, even a deeply thoughtful person, and still get ignored if you accidentally send the wrong signals. So let's talk about the real reason some people are heard instantly while others are not. Because once you understand this, you won't just speak more. You'll speak in a way that actually lands. The first reason is simple, but it changes everything. People listen to people who sound like they believe themselves. Not perfect people, not the loudest people, not the most aggressive people. People listen to people who sound like their words have somewhere solid to stand. Think about how many times you've heard someone say something like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of feel... Now, there's nothing wrong with being humble. There's nothing wrong with being thoughtful. But sometimes we don't speak carefully because we're wise. We speak carefully because we are trying to protect ourselves from rejection. So before the real sentence even begins, we soften it. We apologize for it. We hide behind it. We make it smaller. And the other person can feel that. Not because they are evil, not because they are judging every word, but because humans are constantly reading one silent question. Does this person trust what they're saying? If your voice says, please don't attack me for this, people feel hesitation. If your energy says, I'm not sure my words deserve space, people unconsciously give them less space. This is one reason children sometimes say things more powerfully than adults. A child can say, that's not fair, and the whole room feels it. Why? Because there's no performance, no over-explaining, no 10 layers of apology wrapped around the sentence. The message comes out clean. As we grow older, many of us lose that clean delivery. We start decorating every thought with fear, Maybe because we were laughed.
Maybe because we were interrupted a lot. Maybe because we learned that speaking up can make people uncomfortable. So now instead of saying, I disagree, we say, sorry, maybe I'm being weird, but I just sort of think maybe there could be another side. And by the time we finally reach the point is already tired. This doesn't mean you need to sound hard. It means you need to stop abandoning your own sentence halfway through. A powerful speaker doesn't always use bigger words. Very often they use fewer words with less fear around them. I don't think that's the right move. I'm not comfortable with that. I need more time to think. I see it differently. That doesn't work for me. Simple, clear, no unnecessary apology, no emotional begging for permission to exist. And yes, at first this can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're used to making yourself smaller so everyone stays happy. But something surprising happens when your words stop shaking with self-doubt. People stop treating them like background noise. Now here's where it gets deeper. Confidence is not the only reason people listen. Sometimes people listen to someone who isn't even that confident. So what else is happening? People listen to people who make them feel emotionally safe. This part is so underrated. You can be smart, talented, funny, and still hard to listen to if your energy feels chaotic. Have you ever talked to someone who keeps interrupting themselves, jumping from one thought to another, speaking too fast, changing their opinion every 10 seconds, laughing nervously after serious points, and constantly checking your face to see if you approve? It can make the listener feel a little unsettled, not because the speaker is bad, but because the energy feels unstable. The listener's mind starts working harder just to keep up. Now think of the opposite. Someone speaks a little slower. They don't rush to fill every silence. They finish one thought before starting the next. If you disagree, they don't panic. If there's a pause, they don't collapse into awkwardness. Their energy says, you don't need to manage me. I can hold this moment. That feeling is powerful because most people are carrying enough noise in their own heads already. When someone brings calm, clarity, and emotional steadiness, people naturally lean toward it. This is why some teachers can quiet a classroom without shouting. This is why some leaders don't need to dominate a room to lead it. This is why some friends always seem to have everyone listening when they speak. Even though they're not trying to perform, their words feel safe to receive. And this matters more than people realize. A lot of the time, when someone says, I don't know why people don't listen to me, the real issue is not intelligence. It's not even the message. It's that the message arrives wrapped in panic, over-explaining, or emotional static. And people don't always know how to hold that. There's another hidden reason people get ignored, and it's a painful one. Some people talk from a place of needing something from the listener. Validation, approval, reassurance, permission, proof that they matter. Again, this is human. Almost everyone does it sometimes. But when every sentence secretly carries the feeling of, please confirm me, people can sense the weight of that. You can hear it in small things. When someone tells a story, but instead of sharing it, they keep checking if you're impressed. When someone gives an opinion, but immediately starts scanning your face for agreement. When someone sets a boundary, but then spends 5 minutes trying to convince the other person that the boundary is reasonable. The words may sound fine on the surface, but underneath the energy says, please make me feel okay about saying this. And that changes how the message lands. Because strong communication has a quiet backbone to it. It says, I want connection, but I'm not begging you to approve of my existence. That's why some people can say one calm sentence and it lands harder than someone else's 10-minute explanation. Not because they're heartless, not because they don't care, but because their words are not chasing the listener. And the moment your words start chasing, they lose some of their power. You've probably seen this happen in arguments. One person says, I didn't like how you spoke to me. Clear, direct, simple. The other person says, no, wait, let me explain. I didn't mean it like that, and I know maybe I'm overreacting, and maybe you think I'm dramatic, and I'm sorry if this sounds stupid, but what I was trying to say was, the second person may actually be more thoughtful. They may even be right. But because their message is drowning in anxiety, the core of it gets lost. This is why learning to speak well is not only about vocabulary, it's also about learning how to stay with your own words without immediately running after
them to rescue them. Let me show you another reason people listen instantly, and this one is almost invisible. People trust people whose words and body are saying the same thing. Imagine someone saying, "I'm not nervous," while their voice is shaky, they keep touching their face, and their eyes are darting around the room. Your brain doesn't only hear the sentence, it compares the sentence to the signal, and when the signal and the words don't match, trust drops. Researchers have studied this for years in different ways. Humans are constantly reading tone, facial expression, rhythm, pauses, and body language to decide how much weight to give a message. We don't do it like robots with a checklist. We feel it, sometimes within seconds. This is why someone can say, "I'm happy for you," but you instantly feel something off. Or someone can say, "I'm fine," and you know they are absolutely not fine. Words matter, but alignment matters more than most people think. If your words say one thing and your energy says another, people feel friction, and friction makes listening harder. That's why forcing confidence doesn't work for long. People can feel rehearsed confidence too. They can feel fake intensity. They can feel when someone is trying to wear authority like a costume. Real presence feels different. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't wobble all over the place. It simply matches itself. The voice, the face, the pace, the sentence, the intention, they all point in one direction. And if you've ever wondered why some people seem magnetic even when they're quiet, this is a big reason. Their message doesn't split into 5 different signals. It arrives as one whole thing. Now here comes one of the most uncomfortable truths in this whole video. Sometimes people don't listen to you because you talk too much before you reach the point. I know that sounds harsh. But stay with me. A lot of people who feel unheard accidentally train others not to listen. How? By taking too long to say simple things. They start a story with 5 side stories. They explain the background, then the background of the background, then what happened last week, then what their cousin said, then how they felt, then why they felt that way. And somewhere in the middle, the listener is already gone. And the sad part is, the speaker often does this because they care. They don't want to be misunderstood. They want to be fair. They want to include every detail so no one gets the wrong idea. But too many details can bury the emotional center of what you're trying to say. Imagine handing someone a gift, but instead of giving it to them, you wrap it in 10 boxes, then 20 layers of tape, then another bag, then another box. At some point, the gift is still there, but the person is too tired to reach it. That's what overexplaining does to your message. People who are listened to well usually understand one important thing. Clarity is kindness. It's kind to get to the point. It's kind to say what matters first. It's kind to respect the other person's attention. This doesn't mean you must speak in tiny, cold sentences. It means you learn how to find the center of your message, instead of, "So basically what happened was, okay, this might sound random, but last Tuesday I was already in a bad mood because of something else, and then when she texted me, it reminded me of this other thing. Try. When she said that, I felt disrespected. That's the part I can't shake." Feel the difference? One makes the listener search for the point. The other gives them the point to hold. And once they have the point, then you can add details if needed. But don't make people dig through a forest to find the sentence that matters. Now let's talk about something people almost never say out loud. Sometimes people listen to certain people instantly because those people are not trying to be liked in every second of the conversation. This doesn't mean they are rude. It doesn't mean they don't care. It means they are willing to risk a tiny bit of tension in order to stay honest. That changes everything. Because when someone is too focused on being liked, they start editing themselves in real time. They laugh when they don't want to laugh. They agree before thinking. They soften every boundary. They ask for things like they're apologizing for asking. They smile while saying something that actually hurts them. They say yes when their whole body means no. And other people pick up on that faster than you think. Not always consciously, but they feel that this person is negotiating against themselves, so the words lose force. Have you ever seen someone say, "It's okay," in a way that clearly means, "It is not okay at all"? That sentence teaches people something dangerous. My words are not reliable. Not because the person is bad, but because they keep speaking against themselves. The people who get listened to most are often the people whose yes sounds like yes and whose no sounds like no. There's a clean edge to it. I can't do that. I don't agree. I'm not joking. I need to leave. I'm happy to help, but not today. That crossed a line for me. No drama, no speech, no emotional explosion, just self-respect that can be heard. And if that sounds scary, it's because many of us were trained to believe that being easy to handle is the same as being good. So we became smooth, pleasant, low maintenance, flexible, always understandable, always available. But here's the problem. If you train yourself to never create discomfort, you may also train people to stop taking your words seriously, because words need shape, and shape comes from limits, honesty, and emotional weight. There's also a social reason people listen to some people more than others. People listen to people who make them feel something clear, not necessarily something big, just something clear: interest, relief, curiosity, laughter, respect, surprise, understanding. The worst thing for attention is not disagreement, it's fog, foggy speaking, foggy emotion, foggy intention, foggy storytelling. That's why a person can be nice and still forgettable in conversation. Not because they're boring as a human being, but because the way they speak gives people nothing solid to emotionally grab onto. Think about the people you remember most. Usually they have something clear about them. Maybe they tell stories in a way that makes scenes feel alive. Maybe they ask questions that make you think. Maybe they say simple truths you've felt but never put into words. Maybe they have a calm honesty that cuts through fake social noise. You don't have to become a performer to be listened to, but you do need to stop speaking like your job is only to avoid mistakes. Because great communication is not just error-free talking, it's emotionally alive talking. That can be as simple as saying, "Can I be honest? That actually hurt." Or, "I think a lot of us pretend not to care about this, but we do." Or, "The reason I'm frustrated isn't the small thing, it's what the small thing means." Now the conversation has life. Now the listener feels something. Now they want to know more. And that leads to one of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to become better speakers. They focus too much on sounding impressive and not enough on being clear, present, and real. You do not need a perfect voice. You do not need a deep voice. You do not need fancy words. You do not need to become the loudest person in the room. Some of the most listened to people in the world are not dramatic at all. They're just deeply believable. Think of interviews where one person speaks and you instantly trust them more than the others. Usually it's not because they said the most brilliant sentence in human history. It's because they answered like a real person. No slippery pretending. No trying too hard to look smart. No panic under the words. You can feel when someone is standing inside what they're saying. And maybe this is the real heart of the whole video. People listen to some people instantly because those people are not only delivering words, they are delivering a relationship to their own words. That relationship can be shaky, ashamed, apologetic, hungry, scattered, or it can be grounded. And if you want people to listen more, the biggest shift is not, "How do I sound more important?" It's, "How do I stop betraying my own message while I'm saying it?" That is where the change begins. So what do you actually do with all of this? Start with one tiny habit. Stop cushioning every sentence. For one day, notice how often you say things like, "Sorry, maybe, I don't know, this might be stupid," or "never mind," before your real point even comes out. You don't need to remove every soft word forever. Just notice how often fear is editing you before life even gets to hear you. Then practice landing the point first. If you're telling a story, ask yourself, what is the sentence at the center of this? Say that sentence earlier. If you're setting a boundary, say the boundary before the explanation. If you're sharing an opinion, say the opinion before the apology. If you're hurt, name the hurt before the whole history lesson. Next, slow down just a little. Not fake slow, not robotic slow. Just enough that your words don't trip over your need to get accepted. People trust steadiness, and steadiness often sounds like someone who is not racing to survive their own sentence. Then practice one more thing that can feel tiny but changes everything. Finish your thought without rescuing it. Say the sentence, and let it stand there for 1 second. No instant backtracking. No nervous joke to make it less serious. No, but it's okay, never mind, ignore me. Let your words have a spine. And maybe the hardest part, start saying small, honest things in small, everyday moments. I'd rather not. I don't agree. I need a minute. That didn't sit right with me. I'm not free today. I actually do care about this. I'm not joking. Why start small? Because being heard is not built only in big speeches or big life moments. It's built in tiny daily moments where you teach your voice that it's allowed to be real, and over time, something beautiful happens. Your speech becomes cleaner, your presence becomes calmer, your words stop running around asking to be adopted. People stop hearing only your nervousness and start hearing your meaning. You don't need to force authority, you don't need to play a character, you don't need to copy someone else's personality. You just stop disappearing from your own sentences. And I think that's what so many people are really hungry for. Not just tips on how to sound powerful, but the feeling of not abandoning themselves every time they speak. The feeling of saying something and letting it be true without shrinking it. The feeling of not replaying every conversation later because you once again watered yourself down. The feeling of being in the room fully, not half hidden behind politeness, fear, or over-explaining. If people have ignored you before, it does not automatically mean your voice has no weight. Sometimes it simply means your real voice has been buried under habits that were built to protect you. Habits like apologizing before speaking. Habits like making your point too late. Habits like trying to sound harmless instead of honest. Habits like asking for permission with your tone even when your words are clear. Those habits can change, and when they change, something else changes too. The way people feel when you speak. Not because you became louder, not because you became fake, but because your words finally started arriving with a home inside them. So the next time you speak, remember this. People don't listen instantly only because of the sentence. They listen because the sentence feels backed by a person who means it, a person who can hold the silence after it, a person whose words are not running away from themselves. That person does not have to be perfect. That person does not have to be fearless. That person just has to stop disappearing. And maybe that's your challenge after this video, not to become more impressive, not to become someone else, just to become a little more solid inside your own voice. One clearer sentence, one cleaner boundary, one less apology, one moment where you let your words stay standing. That's where being heard begins. And if this video found you at the right time, I hope it reminds you of something simple but important. Your voice does not become powerful when it becomes louder. It becomes powerful when it stops leaving itself halfway through. Until next time, speak like your words deserve to reach the room. Shine more.